Pinterest is a fantastic tool to be able to pull a lot of curated images from and build a mood board from. I love to use Pinterest as a jumping off point for my own creative projects, but I can find that once I've spent too much time on it, the algorithm starts to serve me images that are very samey. And this is something that I can find to be very limiting. So today I wanted to step back from Pinterest and Instagram for that matter and share some of my favorite places to get inspiration. If you've hung around on my channel before, you know I am a big lover of movies, whether they be animated or live action, and I love to pull inspiration from them, whether that be costumes, lighting, composition, story. There's always something for me to pull from in a film. Even if I don't really love the story, usually I can find costumes that I love, composition, camera techniques, something a little bit more nerdy. I've done projects that have been influenced by specific movies. One October, my friend Sydney and I went out and we did a photo shoot all influenced by the movie The Lost Boys. I love The Lost Boys not only as a horror film, it's one that I can actually get through and it not completely make me wuss out, but also I just love the mix between the mystical supernatural element of the vampires in a setting that is more modern and not so much in like the Victorian era. I find that the juxtaposition between those two concepts is really interesting, and I think the photos turned out fantastic. It was really fun to be able to shoot from sunset to night, and it kind of gave us a variety of looks for one session. I've also pulled from films to just kind of give my creative direction a little nudge. I love to look towards French New Wave films in terms of composition, but also costuming, and I've done so many projects that have been greatly inspired by those. Another area that I love to pull from is fashion. I actually studied fashion for a little bit before I switched over to photography and then eventually went and studied under a mentor. But fashion is still a big part of who I am and how I love to express myself. I love collecting photo books that are centered around runways and specific fashion designers. And I have this one book called Catwalking, which covers years and years of runway photography. Not only does it have images from the runway, but it has a lot of fun little backstage photos that I also love to pull from. They're very candid and charming, and the runway photos themselves, I love to see how the different textures and textiles appear in the photos, the different hair and makeup, and how they play with the lighting. Runways don't all look the same, and so it's also fun to get some inspiration from the sets, whether they be more simple catwalks or if there's something a little more avant-garde, and how the lighting plays into that. I'm someone who's very fortunate to have some super creative friends in my circle, and they are individuals who inspire me so much, not only when I get to be a part of their passion projects and help their creative vision come to life through my medium, but I just also love to see what they're up to, and it truly does inspire me to want to document their creative journey. I have friends who are very talented at makeup and they do looks that I could never dream of doing. So to be able to celebrate that through my medium is incredibly rewarding, and it's something that I just love to do. I have friends who are such talented dancers and singers, and to be able to work on video projects with them is so rewarding. It's something that is outside of my creative world that I've created for myself, and to be able to kind of step out of those limitations I've built for myself and play in something that is a little more experimental for me is not only fun, but to be able to converge our two creative visions and create something we never would have been able to do by ourselves is just collaborative work that I just love to do. Speaking of limitations, I find that stripping back all of the excess can actually lead to very inspirational moments. What I mean by this is, instead of thinking to myself, I don't have the right gear to achieve something, or I just need this one piece in order to make everything come together. Just kind of ignore all of that noise and focus on what you do have. I have a good handful of gear at my disposal, but I do find that there are some things that I am missing, certain light modifiers and certain lights. I would love to have strobes, but I don't have those at my disposal. I would love to have certain light diffusers, but I don't have those at my disposal. And so instead of whining about not having those things and how I can't bring certain visions come to life because I don't, instead I like to focus on what I do have and how I can make the vision that I have come to life. I found that in instances where I work with something that has a lot more setup to it, it can look fantastic, but I also remember all of the stress that went into that setup and how I was equally as happy with the photo than whenever I was simply working with a film point and shoot. Not to say that it's not important to learn how to shoot with gear, but just not to always stress out about it, and that there's just as much to gather from simplistic setups as there is more advanced and technical ones. The last place that I love to gain inspiration from is my list of locations. I love to go location hunting whenever I have the time. Sometimes it happens naturally, and sometimes it's a little bit more strategic in kind of driving around certain areas and finding spots that would be good to use in the future. I did a photo shoot at this man-made waterfall that had been on my list for probably 3 years before I finally got around to it, but I just wanted to save something really special for when I used it. I didn't want it to just be any old little photo shoot. I really wanted it to be special. Gathering inspiration from that and also the time of year just really put together this wonderful creative day that I had and making this creative vision come to life. And I love those photos. I think they're so wonderful. I remember working on them and I was like, this looks like a video game. And before the photo was even finished, I think I just sent a picture of my computer screen of just the raw image to Sydney, who was my model for that session. And I was like, you look fantastic. Look how stunning this is. And I haven't even finished it. And that's just one of the many locations that I have on this list. And admittedly, I wish I had more time in order to work on those projects, but I'm just currently in a season where I can't do that. But being able to sit down and just let the inspiration run through me and plan sessions, that way when I am in a season where I have a bit more free time, I can go out and I can just bring these to life. Those are my favorite ways to get inspired outside of Pinterest and Instagram and social media. That is all the time that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this cozy little sit down. I have a bigger project in the works, but I really wanted to get a video out. I hate missing uploads, so even though I feel like I'm very busy, I love to just set aside time to make these videos. I love making them and I'm happy that you're here. If you are new here and you would like to see more of my face, you can subscribe, leave a like, all the good jazz. I hope you have a super lovely rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out and I'll see you next time. Bye.